Hey everybody, normal vlog today, but while I'm down this way to show you some of the storm damage, all that woodwork there was a structure up here that the sea completely fucking destroyed. Well, I think you can see what's happened here. You've got this line, oh god this is soft, all that woodwork was along here in line with all this, and it just destroyed it all, including that concrete box that's been there for years. About half an hour to high tide, and it's just starting to get over the top already. What is this? It's like some kind of freaky mouse with the movable ears. If you can hold on, he's coming with. Hey, you can hold on, alright. We will call you Roberto. Roberto, where did he go? Oh, fuck. It was a short-lived friendship. But it's still all flooded, and the sea's coming over again. Maybe that was a bit of a mistake. And everyone's down here with their cameras, taking pictures, documenting the event. That leads me on to my subject. As I've said before, I used to be, well, I tried out to be, a semi-professional photographer. Made some money out of it. Well, I got in the whole photography game when I was about 16. As I was leaving school, I got a 35mm film, completely manual. I mean, it did have an auto mode, I'll be honest, but I hardly ever used it because it was shit. And I learned photography and all the techniques and basics from film. And that was shitty those days. You people who are learning photography now, you're fucking lucky. Your process of learning is so accelerated. You see, for me, I had to wait a week to see what the picture came out like, remember stuff, write down notes of like the exposure settings and stuff to remember how. It was horrible. It was almost like it was no fun, but it's once you learn, you were more of this magician craftsman, because you could get a really good picture out of a camera, which most people couldn't. As I say, now this time, it was the back end of film. Digital cameras were around, but they were shit. I remember the first digital camera I ever saw took a floppy disk. I swear it was a floppy disk on the side of it. Is that right? Was there a digital camera that had a floppy disk in it? But so yeah, it was the digital revolution. A complete change for a lot of photographers. I know there was people who were resistant at the time to do it, and it took a while before they could truly compete with the quality of film, but they did it quite quickly. And now the cameras are getting more and more advanced. And this is my kind of question. Do you think the modern advancements of the automated systems on cameras and the cheats like HDR is ruining photography? So nowadays people can go out, buy a digital SLR, have no fucking clue how to use it, put it in auto, and they can take some amazing pictures. And then they'll show their pictures to their friends, and they'll call themselves a photographer and all of these things because they took some pictures using a camera which they've owned for one day. Having the camera does not make you a photographer, in the same way that owning lots of spanners and tools does not make you a mechanic. You know, a lot of these people, you could ask them about f-stops, ISOs, depth of field, you know, these sorts of things, and they wouldn't actually understand what you were really talking about because they don't understand the very fundamental basics of, you know, photography. But their camera in its auto mode completely makes up for that. It can take some awesome pictures, well, which we say technically awesome, as in the way that they're exposed and the colour gradients and the depths of field they can achieve. They don't need to know anything about photography to be able to do that, but when it comes down to, you know, taking a good shot, understanding how composition and things like that work, understanding the flow of an image. Oh shit. This is like a storm drain gully. It collects the seawater and washes it off each end. And evidently it's filled up. And everyone's come out to have a look and have a stand by the flood. Let's look at the flood. And people might call me elitist for saying these sorts of things, but it's not elitism. It's years of trial and error and learning different techniques. That's why I comfortably call myself a photographer. So as I say, I'm not putting people off. If you want to do photography, if you've got a camera this Christmas, brilliant. This is going to open your new eyes to the world, as it were. But learn properly. If you need to get a book, sit there and learn what Aperture does, what depth of field's going to do, exposure settings, ISO. Just a few things like this are the things that you need to learn. Put the camera in manual mode. A friend of mine who I'm sort of mentoring and teaching in photography, and thankfully he agrees with me, otherwise this would be quite difficult to get someone to do, is I said to him, don't use your camera in auto mode, ever. I never do. Have it in aperture priority most of the time, that's what I would suggest. That's what I would do for general, just, you know, taking a snap of something. With my macro stuff that I do, I'm in full manual, and I'm using a flash on manual, and everything is under my control. I have to change the way the light comes from it, bounce it off surfaces around me, to use colours and light. The other thing I'd suggest is you specialise for a couple of months at a time, like choose a particular subject of some sort, really practice on that type of thing, you know, because it's going to have the same lighting, focusing conditions, that sort of stuff, because you basically want to learn, get through as many trial and error things as you can with that sort of photography, and then move on to something slightly different. Now the problem with that is you're going to find yourself wanting different lenses all the time, you know, maybe a different flash, this, that and the other, different bits and pieces, and photography is fucking expensive. It was probably worse than this yesterday because the tide was about the same, but we had like 60-70 mile an hour onshore winds. Now this is me just being a bit dickish, but it does piss me off. You know, like on the local news they'll have, oh shit, the sea is coming over, look, it's flying. They'll have like picture of the day, like, oh, this lovely photographer sent in, blah, 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 blah. And then they'll go and ask them all these questions. This person's talking to them like they're some fucking qualified photographer. And sat next to them is an automatic little compact. No control really, just point and shoot. Anyone could have taken it holding that device. And that's still fine, you know, if they're still like, oh yes, that's just something I do, blah, 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 blah. You're not a proper photographer if you're using an automatic camera. That's basically my point. If you can't put it in manual and still take a good picture, you're not a photographer. I think that's where the key should be. Okay, there is one type of photographer out there that I just know, and that is your Instagram photographer. If you take a picture of something, then put some huge fucking effect on it, which just happens to be the same effect that it practically puts on every image, annoyingly, and I will admit, annoyingly, they do actually look really nice sometimes through the Instagram system. And that's the reason it's so popular, because they can take a mediocre image, apply some trickery to it, and then you got yourself a good looking image. I have to say, and I suppose I say to myself, well, is then that good looking image good enough to just stand on its own and forget the way it was taken? Maybe. I don't know. Let's say I'm not putting anyone off becoming a photographer. In fact, I positively encourage you to become a photographer. Just don't call yourself a photographer until you know what you're doing. Or call yourself an amateur photographer or an enthusiast photographer. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think the automation has taken the heart and soul out of photography? Has it taken the feeling out and replaced it with its mechanical heart of intelligence and reasoning? You know, it's chips. You see, my mother, long time ago, with my father, she used to catch the shark. Yes, I do not agree with this. It was sport fishing. There is no excuse. But it was the time that people said this thing was okay. You could do this. He was like, go catch a shark.